everybody, it's Pastor Tim.
And Pastor Mallory.
From Unfailing Love Church, Fort Wayne. And it's time again for another weekly episode of our podcast, Unfiltered Love, where we kind of come together and have a conversation about what's been bugging us this week.
Yeah.
And this week, we are going to talk a little bit about humility, which sounds like a really fun conversation to have.
Oh, super fun.
I hope you guys are ready. If you've been watching this podcast for, the last few weeks that we've been posting, you know that we're going to actually start digging a little bit more into the Bible. You know, that big book that we're supposed to kind of follow some of the rules of,
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. It's more of follow that Jesus guy.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to focus on most of the time. But this week, from the lectionary, if you haven't heard us using this tool, it is kind of a compilation of verses to use every week for teaching.
Yeah, if you need an explanation, we both posted a video right before this, actually, where our mentor, he actually goes into what it is and kind of how it came to be.
Right, so if you want a little bit of background, go check that out.
Yeah.
But this week we're going to talk about Luke 14. We're going to start in verse 1 and then skip over to verse 7 through 14, because verse 1 gives a little bit of context on what Jesus is talking about in this.
Context is important?
I know, context is important. It's shocking.
What?
I know, crazy. But Luke 14, verse 1, on one occasion when Jesus was going to the house of a leader of the Pharisees to eat a meal on the Sabbath, they were watching him closely. This is where we skip to verse 7. When he noticed how the guests chose the places of honor, he told them a parable. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not sit down at the place of honor, in case someone more distinguished than you has been invited by your host. And the host, who invited both of you, may come and say to you, give this person your place. And then, in disgrace, you would start to take the lowest place. But when you are invited, go and sit down at the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he may say to you, friend, move up higher. And then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at the table with you. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. He said also to the one who had invited him, when you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends, or your brothers, or your relatives, or rich neighbors, in case they may invite you in return and you would be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. So, we hear Jesus talk in parables a lot in the Bible. And most of those parables call back to Old Testament writing.
Yeah, I'm just looking for that one. Give me one.
It's only a couple lines there. Right there.
Thank you.
So, we kind of, I think, should give a little context of
what he's pulling
what he's kind of pulling from. And we do that by going to Proverbs 25, 6 and 7. And it's just written basically the same. Do not put yourself forward in the king's presence or stand in the place of the great. For it is better to be told, come up here, than to be put lower in the presence of a noble.
Yep.
Again, humility is always kind of the better first step.
Be humble.
Who wants to go to a noble's palace and get told you ain't as important as you think you are? So,
nobody wants that.
And, we tend to get a little on the nose in this podcast sometimes.
That's kind of the purpose, don't you think?
I guess a little bit. But, for those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Sounds a little, familiar recently.
Sounds familiar in a lot of circles, I guess.
Yeah, and, you can draw what conclusions you want from that, but I think those of you who've maybe followed our stuff for a little bit know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we don't want to put that too far out there.
But realistically, you don't want to make yourself more important than what you actually are, because it would be embarrassing if you go in thinking you are the guest of honor,
right?
And you get bumped down, whether it's one or two seats, or no,
all the way down to the end of the table.
This isn't about you. Go down there.
Right.
So you always want to go in, and not always, but in a situation like this where you don't know kind of where you stand, you want to go in with the mindset of like, I'm not the most important person here.
Right. Like if you get the little placard that says you sit here, obviously go ahead.
Right. Name cards, awesome.
Right.
Seating charts, my favorite thing in the world.
Right. All the organization.
Yes. Best thing ever. But you don't want to go in thinking you're the most important thing in the room.
Yeah, no, definitely
Because
not.
there's always someone who is in need of something more than you are.
Right. And that's why it says towards the end, he says, when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind.
Right.
Because they can't pay you back. And one of the greatest things you can do in all of Jesus' teachings, he says this over and over
Especially
again,
in that time frame,
is to take care of someone who cannot pay you back.
Right.
It's literally...
You're not doing it for yourself at that point. You're literally just doing it out of the kindness of your heart to make that person's life that much easier.
Right. And I think I've said it in these videos before. If I take the kids to the store...
Good luck, by the way.
Right. And I tell them, you know, you're getting repaid at the end of this. I'm going to get you a candy bar if you're good. Are they being good at that point?
They're not being good to be good. They're being good because they want candy.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, sometimes when we've had one of those days,
sometimes
you gotta do what you gotta do.
But that's being a human parent. That's not being God.
Right.
And God and Jesus, through his teachings, want us to be good for the sake of being good.
Yeah.
Not for some reward we're going to get.
Right.
Not for some payback.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't always expect a payback when we're operating under Jesus' teachings.
No.
Once again, things that might seem a little familiar right now.
It's not about ourselves.
Right.
I don't take this job to glorify myself.
No.
I'm not a mom to glorify myself.
No.
I'm not a wife to glorify myself.
Mm-mm.
I am here because I know that you need a partner.
Right.
Our kids need somebody to take care of them.
Yep.
Our friends and family need somebody to protect them and stand up for them, or even just be around and bring some humor when nobody else can see the humor because, you know, trauma.
Yeah, dealing with trauma with humor, a Pastor Mal special. But no, you're 100% on the nose of why we do this.
Yeah.
We don't do this to get our name out there. We tell you we're Pastor Tim and Pastor Mal, so you know who's talking to you at the beginning of a video.
It's nice to have context.
But I don't care if anybody ever remembers my name. What I care is that the kid that's getting bullied at school spoke to me once and knew that there's somebody out there that cares about them.
Right. I care that there's somebody going through something that I went through similarly, that knows they're not alone, that knows that they've just ended up in a really icky situation and they have somebody on their side.
Right. And that's what we want all of you to feel when you come into one of these conversations that we have.
Anybody who feels uncomfortable in their everyday life being authentically who they are, I want you to know that if you're here and you're with us, you can be whoever you are.
Yeah.
And there will be no judgment, there will be no negativity, there will be nothing. I will be your biggest cheerleader and I will stand up for you against the world.
Right.
And
because each and every one of you are doing your best. You're doing amazing. You really are. Because just to be here, just to be able to sit...
It's hard.
The fact that you're sitting here watching this, you've made it this far. And this life is not easy.
Nope. Sometimes all you can do is survive.
Right. And we're proud of you for doing that.
Yeah.
And that's our whole message, for the church, is you're not alone. That's why we hashtag all of our posts with "you are not alone."
Yeah.
And to do that, we're 100% willing to be humble. We're willing to go, we hope that we're a step on your path, but we're willing to just be that nameless couple that smiled at you at one point.
Right.
And let you know that the world was not all bad.
Right.
And, I don't do that for a reward. I don't even do that for the reward it's given in the Bible. I really don't. And I assume I speak for you when I say that as well.
When it comes down to it, we don't do it for anything. We both work a full-time job on top of this.
Right. Full disclosure, we don't get paid for this now.
No, and that's great. And would it be nice for this to be my full-time job? 100%. I would love for this to be my full-time job. But it's not, and that's okay.
Right.
I do this because I want to take care of people. And that speaks to this clump of verses.
Oh, 100%.
Because you're supposed to put others first. Yes, you need to take care of yourself. 100%. You need to take the time to rest. You need to repair yourself. You need to be able to take care of those around you. But when it comes down to it, you need to be able to look at whoever's around you and be like, I can help you. Let me help you.
Yeah. And, again, to point back to the verses we're talking about. When you are invited, go and sit down at the lowest place so that when your host comes, he may say to you, "Friend, move up higher," and then you'll be honored in the presence of all who sit at the table with you. And it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. Humility leads to elevation.
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm not telling you to do it for that, because that's not the whole message of the sermon he's giving.
When
basically.
You put others first, you will still find those rewards.
Right.
But you need to do it out of selflessness.
Right. And even the reward could be as simple as watching somebody be able to sit above you and go, this feels really good. I'm not usually above anybody.
Yeah.
And, give them that little bit of joy.
Or even like, man, you've worked really hard.
Right.
You deserve that.
And, I say don't do it for the reward, but Christ and in heaven you will be rewarded for those things. I just believe you will.
Yeah.
But again, to do it just for and it's hard to do anything just for fully selfless means.
I mean, even in Friends, they have the whole episode where there's no selfless good deed. Joey and Phoebe argue about it the entire episode. And whereas they're correct, and there's no fully selfless good deed, because you always kind of feel good about it at the end of the day, and that in itself makes you be like,
is a little bit of a reward.
Right. Oh yeah, this is great. Like, you can still find those good deeds that just give you that feeling of, you know what, I helped somebody. And that's still pretty selfless.
Right. And I mean, if you're really doing it for just the feeling of, I helped that person today, I don't think that's a bad gratification.
No, it's not. And in that episode, it's just out of silly, like... Right.
But I mean, and there's stuff like that in, not necessarily these verses, but when Jesus talks, is always, there is a feeling to doing good to others. Yeah. There just is. There's always a kind of, I did that. I helped there. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't always come to you immediately.
Right.
Sometimes it really sucks to be humble. Sometimes it doesn't make you feel good.
Sometimes it sucks to try and help people.
Right.
It's hard.
But we're called to do it every time.
Would it have been easier to sit at our old church and just be there every day, like not every day, but every Sunday, and just kind of go through the motions and go on about our day afterwards? 100%.
Yeah. But we decided...
Would we have felt like crap?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, we would.
We'd have felt like crap the whole time.
Yes, we would have.
And that's why we decided to take what... Again, you can correct me if I'm speaking out of turn for you, but what's a really difficult path to walk sometimes for us.
Oh, yeah, this is not easy. This is not fun. This is not... It is rewarding, but it is not...
It's not easy. Just for lack of a better way to say it.
There's so much that I'm trying to say that I can't.
There's a lot to process, and we would love to sit down and have that specific conversation. And I'm sure at some point we will. If we had that conversation with you, we'd need a whole nother video, at least. Yeah. But that's why we do these things, though, is we do this.
Yeah, and then when we're with everybody at Safe Space on Sundays, it's, everything leading up to it has been hard, and when we go to film these, I'm not always in the mood to do it. Usually I'm just like, ugh. Right. I don't want to. It means I have to talk. Yeah. And I have to think, and I have to focus, and I'm a little ADHD, so I don't want to. Right. And I would rather just sit on the couch, watch TV with you and the cats. Right. But on Sundays, when we're all together, and I'm listening to how everybody's week was, and we're all playing around and talking, and we go over this, and I hear points that I didn't necessarily think about, or somebody has another piece of information that I didn't even know. It really leaves me feeling like, man, this is why I'm doing it. Right. This is the community I'm working for. Yeah,
and that's, like, really to touch to that point, that's why we go through the things that we go through during the week. When I go live on TikTok, I sit and I see so many messages of somehow while I'm teaching on Jesus' words, I'm a false teacher. I'm a heretic. People are telling me they're binding my tongue because I have demons within me. And does that absolutely suck?
Did you catch a demon without telling me?
I must have.
Dang it.
Does that absolutely suck to hear? Yeah. Absolutely. But I do it because of the messages that I get later.
Where we talk about cat chat.
Right. Or I'm so glad that I've found this loving space. Yeah. And I've gone so far away from the church, but if more churches were like yours, I might still be there.
Or some of my circle lately has been coming back to the church because they came across your stuff.
Right. And all stuff we've actually heard, and it's amazing. But I don't...
my mind.
Right. But that's why we do this. We want you to feel loved. We want you to know that God doesn't hate you. Mm-mm. The Bible is not attacking you specifically, even though some people may tell you that it is. It's not. Jesus doesn't hate you. God doesn't hate you. We don't hate you.
No, we love you just as you are.
Right. There is nothing that you can do. Again, just not having the Bible memorized, but I know it's a verse. Nothing you can do can make God love you any less.
No, there's nothing that can separate you.
That's why God's love is described as unconditional. Mm-hmm. That's why we use the term unfailing love church when we put our church together. There's nothing you can do that will make us not love you. Are we always going to agree with everything you do? Mm-mm. Probably not. But that's just being human. That's just
humanity, yeah.
That's just a difference of opinion most of the time. Mm-hmm. But being your authentic self, loving who you love, being how you were made to be and how you feel inside is never going to disqualify you from love.
And we may not always like the things you do or like the decisions you make, but that doesn't mean that we don't love you.
Right, and if asked, we may counsel you of, hey, probably not the
probably
best
not the
thing
decision
for you
I
to
would
do.
Make.
Maybe a little bit self-destructive. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But we're not going to go to somebody that we don't have a relationship with, which is, I think, one of the biggest problems with how Christians approach evangelizing, is they go to someone who has no relationship with them.
That's always bothered me, by the way.
And goes, you're doing this wrong.
First of all, stranger danger.
Right.
Always a thing I can't get over.
Yeah.
Second, I am scared of new people. Will forever be. I don't even order my own food.
But fair. But what I'm saying,
why would I want to go up to somebody and be like, you're wrong, when I don't know them?
Right. Well, and not even that. On the other side of it, if someone doesn't know who you are and doesn't know where you're coming from,
I'm like, please don't talk to me.
Well, and they don't know the path that led you to where you are. They don't know anything about how you learn, how you have grown, how you've experienced life. If you're not part of my circle and you tell me something, some kind of criticism about my life, what point do I have to listen to you?
Most of the time, I'm gonna be like, did you hear that crazy person?
Right.
Were they talking to me?
Right. And I've heard one of my favorite things from people that aren't in our belief of, I'm not part of your book club, so why do I care what your book says?
Right.
And it's like, you're not... When they use these stupid, like, comeback verses, and they use the, well, we're supposed to judge the actions of others. We're supposed to judge the actions of other believers that we're in relationship with. Mm-hmm. But we are not supposed to condemn them for it.
Correct.
We are supposed to, when asked, again, that's part of the verse, but people leave that part out. When asked, we say, no, I don't believe that that's how God wants things to be.
And then have a conversation, not an argument.
Right.
Not a demand.
And you may come away from that discussion with no change to either side.
That's okay. That's what the term agree to disagree.
But I'm going to go to the conservative evangelical church's favorite poster child, Paul, who actually specifically says, don't let yourself get involved in petty disputes about the law.
Yep.
Because it is useless to both parties.
Yeah.
If you don't believe me that that's in the Bible, look it up. Because it is. It's in one of the letters.
Do you think the people that are watching this will not believe you?
You know, if you come across our stuff randomly, we are just out on YouTube on the public.
I mean, that's fair.
Setting. But, you know, it's really in there. And
I know it is.
And I use this to equip the people that do watch this, that want to learn that stuff. I want to equip them with...
No, you're right.
This is what this should be used for.
You're right.
So, and that does all come back. I promise I'm not just rambling. I promise I'm not just rambling. I do all that to say none of that says humility.
No, none of it does.
And when push comes to shove, the entire message of Jesus Christ was humility.
Right, and if you're going up to those people that you don't know, and you're saying, you know, you're 100% wrong for this, or you're jumping into TikTok lives to condemn people,
right,
or in the comments to spread hate, you're missing the message.
Oh, 100%.
That's not that's not the message at all. You can't be humble if all you're doing is saying, I'm the only person who
Right.
has the right answer. My belief is the only true belief.
Right.
That right there contradicts being humble.
Exactly. That was going to be my next point, and you made it. That was
Got you.
exactly it. And so I think we should probably wrap this one up.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Sit down. Be humble. I won't reference.
It was
what
in
that
my head the whole time,
actually
so
was
thank you
from.
for actually saying that.
But really, like, our challenge to you this week is be humble.
Yeah.
Let somebody have the seat ahead of you.
Yeah.
Let somebody out in front of you in traffic.
That's a hard one. Let somebody out in front of you.
Oh, I know.
in
I was
traffic.
looking at myself in the camera when I said that one. But seriously, do the hard things of, I am not always the utmost.
Yeah.
I have to take care of me
Mhm.
and keep myself safe and keep myself knowing that I'm loved, even if it's just by me.
Yeah.
But let somebody else know that they're loved by someone that's not just them.
That's a good challenge.
100%.
Reach out to one person.
Yeah. Let
Let them
somebody
know.
know that they are cherished, that they are loved. But you got anything else, or should we go ahead and wrap this
I
one
think
up?
that's a good place to wrap it up.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining with us for another episode of Unfiltered Love, where we pop the filter off and we talk about the things that are on our minds.
Sometimes it's a little bit of rambling.
A little bit, but it all came back.
Full circle. Good job, honey.
Love you guys. We hope to see you next week.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.